Prime Minister, many countries in the Caribbean, though I know not so much Guyana, have been forced to look to tourism for development. Do you see tourism as a helpful development?
Well, every country must use what resources it has. Fortunately for us, God gave us dirty, murky waters, and we don't have to be the subject of these tourists. Tourism, to my mind, for Guyana is not a good thing at this stage because it means the importation of false and wrong values and the creation of a nation of waiters. Tourism, I think, can be all right after the country has built its own economy and has an ethic, mores of its own. And then you can afford to let people come all around the place.
It sometimes appears that within the poor countries of the world, that a sort of rhetoric is used, particularly in addressing large audiences, with slogans that aid is exploitation, that aid is raid, and so forth, which must rather discourage the donor nations.
Well, in my case, it's not idle rhetoric. It arises from a study of our facts. And that is why we have placed greater emphasis on national self-reliance. Because in my view, aid can never build a country. It dehumanizes the individuals and makes them lose confidence in themselves.
Well, if aid can't bridge the gap between the rich world and the poor world, what can the poor countries do to bridge the gap?
As I see it, there are two principal things to be done, at least, or possibly three. One, there must be a greater self-reliance and involvement of the people in the case of each of the poor nations. Two, there must be a more concerted and definitive attempt to increase the flow of trade between developing countries. And thirdly, the developing countries ought to have a rather uniform policy so that when there are resources in their countries which the rich countries want, the rich countries will be made to pay for them fairly and adequately.
Do you think the poor countries can achieve these rearrangements?
Well, I think if they don't achieve it, they'll perish.